and they would put me at the head of the table and just make me sit there while they're talk and debate with all these people, talk numbers, talk crazy stuff. And then I would just, from a young age, always being around that, always seeing that, like, I am very happy that I spent my childhood with more adults than I did with kids my own age, because I was picking up more things from adults than I were from kids my own age. And I look and I go around sometimes and I hang out with other people that are my age, and they're just kind of just...
What's up, Cinema Shogun here? And apparently people are going nuts over this Jaden Smith interview. For some reason it was trending and Jaden Smith was trending, all because of some of the information he revealed in the interview. But what people were mainly focused on is the fact that he was basically describing himself as an old soul for the most part. Now, I understand why some people would deem what he just said as alarming, considering the fact that Will Smith and his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, allowed their daughter, while she was underage, to be like naked in bed, taking like model photos with grown men and stuff like that. So yeah, you kind of gotta worry when it comes to these Hollywood people when you say, oh, you know, I was around mostly adults and not kids. You know, you kind of gotta worry. However, I think what he was trying to say is that he's basically an old soul, and I can relate. Because when I was growing up, I always sensed that I was more in tune with like what was going on in the outside world as opposed to most people my age. Like, I was always someone who kind of was aware of the news and looked into news stories. Also, like, while some kids would be outside riding bikes, often I would like to be in the house reading about World War II, reading The Art of War, reading about feudal Japan, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Like, I was reading a lot of deep, complex things while other kids my age were outside horseplaying. And I did my fair share of horseplaying as well, but I always felt, you know, like an old soul, if you will, in some ways. And I think that's what Jaden is trying to say here, although I understand why some people will be alarmed. For one, I don't think anyone's childhood should be robbed from them. Kids should be allowed to be kids. And in this situation, I'm not sure how much of a kid Jaden was allowed to be. I mean, of course, he probably had anything any child could ever dream of. You know, he has plenty of money. His family has plenty of money. But oftentimes when you're a child of a celebrity, you live under a certain amount of pressure. And oftentimes they kind of try to go ahead and groom you into a star as well, even, you know, from an early age. And I will say this, out of a lot of these celebrity kids that are out there, I think Jaden Smith is actually talented. I think Jaden Smith is actually creative. He says some stuff that's kind of outlandish sometimes, but I think he's more talented than most of these celebrity kids that go on to be famous for no reason, if you will. You understand what I'm saying here? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if without Will Smith or his mother in the equation, if he became famous on his own, if he was just someone's normal child. I do think he's creative. However, you know, sometimes when you're a celebrity's kid, there's a lot of pressure on you to try to make you be creative and make you into the star. So I understand he was probably dealing with a lot of things from that. And the fact that he was often thrust in these adult situations, you have to wonder what type of adult situations did they thrust him into. Like, yes, you were around adults more than kids, but did you really need to be in some of these situations? And knowing how his mother is and that she likes to give blowjobs to his friends, you just have to wonder, like, what type of people did they have these kids around? Because that's kind of scary to me. But in this interview, he revealed something about his mother and Tupac. Let's take a listen.
That time.
Did you ever, Jaden, did you feel the pressures?
You know, yeah, I did. Once I went out into the world and I saw what people, you know, how people feel about my parents, you know, I didn't understand, you know, I'm still understand more and more every day that, you know, they're just a staple in the world and they made people feel a type of way that no one has ever made anyone feel. So I just didn't understand, and just how deep rooted they are in hip hop as well.
Yeah, oh my gosh, man.
I'm looking at this picture right here of Tupac on the shirt right there, and Tupac asked to marry my mom.
Yeah.
And she was like, we're Pac, like we're best friends.
Right.
Like,
Well, they say marry your best friend, but I'm glad they didn't.
yeah.
Friends
yeah,
are- He's like, so am I.
you know, but so just
You
seeing-
know, to this day, there's still people out there that don't believe that there was anything romantic between Jada Pinkett Smith and Tupac. I think this is proof that there was. Now, he did mention that she said that they were just friends and she denied him. But the fact that he even popped the question lets you know that there was a dynamic between them that she tries to pretend like there wasn't. But in reality, everything she says and how she acts when she talks about him definitely would make anyone think that there was this, you know, romantic relationship between the two. I mean, she talks about him in such a high esteem, and I know that's okay, even if he's just a friend. But, like, she brings up these love letters and these poems, and I'm someone who, I really like poetry. I've read Tupac's poetry book, and Tupac had a good bit of poems that were dedicated to Jada. You know, I know for a fact that Tupac felt some type of way about her, and I believe she felt some type of way about him as well. But I just think she was trying to play her cards and figure out who and where she wanted to go. I feel like she had a lot of different options of a lot of different popular rappers and actors at the time, and she wound up going with Will Smith, which was, I think, in turn, the right option, because most of the other people she used to run around with are dead now. So I guess Will Smith was the right option, but that wasn't so lucky for Will Smith. But just the way he said it just kind of threw me off. Because, you know, I would feel like he would want to be more protective over his father in that moment. And it was just so casual, like, oh yeah, this guy, you know, he offered to marry my mom. And it was like almost like it's an accomplishment. But your dad's Will Smith. Now, if you're any run-of-the-mill kid off the street, and you're like, man, Tupac tried to marry my mom, you know, that would be like a bragging right of yours. You know what I'm saying? But for Jaden, like, your father is Will Smith. This isn't a bragging right. This is more of an embarrassment, because we know how Will Smith feels about this. Will Smith has voiced himself that he feels very insecure about Tupac and Jada's relationship. So the fact that he mentioned it almost like, oh, that was a brag, like that was a flex. Like, no, that's not a flex. This is like further embarrassing your father. And it just leads me to believe that your mother, like, you know, told you a lot about Tupac. While your dad's out filming movies, your mom's filling you with stories about Tupac and her relationship with other guys, which is why your sister, Willow Smith, wrote that letter saying that she hopes Tupac is alive because he's the only one that can make her mother happy. So, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff there. But I want to know your thoughts here. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like what Jaden said was disturbing at the beginning of this video? Because a lot of people have deemed it as such, and I'm not so convinced that it is, although I do see how it can be viewed that way. So I want to know your thoughts about that down below. What are your thoughts about this Tupac situation? Let me know down below. But as always, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video.